All right, so what I wanted to give you a real quick sample of today was just using Visual Designer. This little icon up here, Arena's Visual Designer, also accessible from the Tools menu here, to do a dashboard. If you've worked at all with Rockwell Software's Arena simulation software for design of experiments, simulation of processes, and things like that, um, the visual designer allows us to create a nice dashboard for presentation purposes, to look at this in PowerPoints and things like that. So you're not showing the nuts and bolts of how your system works. To give you an example of what I'm going to do in this particular system, we'll look at my variable here. Let's see. Go into my expression builder here real quick. Go under Q. We'll look at the current number in Q. And I'll just show you how this real simple little inventory control system that I built is going to work. So we'll throw this in the expression. We'll hit OK. And what we should see when we run this is that I've created a little, let's see, I just need two spaces there. I've created a queue up here that should basically toggle between 5 and 15 for inventory control. So what that means is I'll fill up this queue to 15, and then I'll stop filling it, and I'll wait for it to drop all the way down to 5, and then I'll fill it back up to 15. I do that through a couple of decide blocks and a start fill and a stop fill bit. So it's pretty easy to look at. Let's see it run once so you get an idea of what we're looking at. So you can see the number in Q are showing up here. It's going up to 5, it's going up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We are processing some of these entities through in the meantime. This process over here, I think, has a tree of distribution of 2, 3, 4. And we're distributing, we're sending entities into the system at a constant rate of 1 per hour. But eventually what happened was it got to 15, and now you're seeing it start to drop. And it's going to continue to drop all the way down to 5. And we've built ourselves a little inventory control mechanism that goes up to 15, down to 5, back up to 15, kind of a just-in-time replenishment system here. We don't have a ton of work in process. We have enough to work on, and it just kind of bounces between that 5 and 15 level. All right, we'll go ahead and save that. And now what I want to do is show you how we can look at that in a better manner. So if you open up the Visual Designer, either from right next to your Expression Builder, or if you go up to the Tools menu, you'll see Arena Visual Designer. When you open up the Visual Designer, it's basically going to open up in here, and you can work with different dashboards. And you'll see if you click on a dashboard here, it'll give you a toolbox for that dashboard, the Editor Explorer, properties for the controls and or the dashboard, and then the Project Explorer. If I wanted to add a dashboard, I could right-click, insert a dashboard. Now I have dashboard 1, dashboard 2. I'm going to get rid of dashboard 2 because it's not that complex of a model that we need that. But now what I'm going to do is, you'll see I've got a big container here where I can put controls. I like to split this container up a little bit, kind of like the dashboard on your car. You have your speedometer, your tachometer, your fuel gauge, all these things. I'll right-click here and I'll split it horizontally. I might drag it down a little bit, so now I have 2 containers, one on top, one on bottom. I'll go to the bottom container, right-click, and I'll split it vertically. So now, and then I can even drag these around a little bit. So now I basically have 3 containers I can work with. Looks great to me. In the top container, a couple of the neat things that you can do, you have levels and columns, histograms, bars, pie charts, plots, scoreboards, pictures. I mean, this is kind of the nice thing about using the Visual Designer. I like to, show levels. I want to see the level of that queue go between 5 and 15. So I'm going to grab this plot here and throw it in here. And you'll see it comes in as a nice little plot. It's got a couple of data series to it. If I want to edit the plot, all of that's done in the properties. So as long as I have that container highlighted where that plot resides, I'm looking at the properties for that particular container. If I go to data, I can go in here, and I only have one series. I'm just going to look at the number in Q, so I'm going to remove series 2. And I can see, oh, here's where I can put in an expression for series 1. I can put in a line color. Maybe I'll make it a nice black. Okay. And maybe instead of calling it series 1, I'll call it work in process. So this is what's in my queue, waiting to be processed. But I need an expression for that. So this is where you can toggle back to Arena. you can go into your expression builder and you can go into whatever process. Here's my processes. I only have the one process. So I'm going to look at the queue for that process. And inside of the queue, I can get current number in queue, average number in queue. I can get all kinds of detailed information. I'm just going to look at the current number in queue. And the expression builder is awesome for this. Now I've got what that expression is. Now I knew what that was. I knew it was NQ parentheses workstation.QUEUE. But some people may not know that. You don't need to memorize that. So you can just use the expression builder, copy it, go back into Visual Designer, and paste that in as your expression. Now that's going to be your expression. You can see it as whip up here. You can also change your title of your plot. Set a plot. I could call this workstation work in process. All right, and I could go in and I could even change the font, make the font much bigger if I wanted to. And now what you'll see up on top is I've changed the title of the plot also. So kind of nice. I can move things around. Let's say I wanted to put a company logo down in this container. I can click on this container, go up to the picture, drag that picture down, and double click to insert image. Now that it's ready, go find my company logo. I work for Dunwoody College of Technology, so I'll post Dunwoody's logo in there. Then I can go over to this control, and let's say I wanted to put in a scoreboard. Scoreboards are kind of nice. You'll see these a lot at companies that maybe they're tracking the last day since an accident. Maybe they're tracking their work in process, their number in, number out, things like that. They could display all those up on a big LED signboard. I'm going to put in just 2 columns and 3 rows, and it's going to give me a warning. It's going to say, hey, if you have data in there, you may lose it. And that's fine. I didn't have any data in there. I'm going to call this first cell current whip. I'm going to call this next one average whip. And I'm going to call this third one whip cost. And then the next column, this is kind of like Excel where I'm just kind of naming what's going to be over here, naming what's going to be over here, naming what's going to be over here. What I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to assign the expression here. Just like Excel, if I want a numerical value in these, you have to put an equal sign in each one. Okay. Now for current work in process, I'm just going to look at the queue length. I go back to Arena. I go back to my expression builder. And again, I can go under queue, current number in queue. There it is. I can copy that, go back into the Visual Designer, and paste that right there. The average whip, that's the average number in the queue. I go back to Arena, can delete this one out, go to the average number in queue, grab this one, and I wouldn't have known the average parentheses workstation.QUE.number in queue. I might not have known that off the top of my head. So the expression builder is a real handy tool. And then the whip cost, what I like about the whip cost is you can then go back to the expression builder and you can say, okay, let's say I know that each item that's in the queue cost me $15. I'm just going to take the number in queue, multiply it by 15, copy that, and I'll paste that in here. So I'll know that those cost me $15. Now, a good idea at this point would be to file save this thing so you don't lose any of your data in case your computer crashes. You can run a check on it. I know there's no errors on this. Let's see what happens. And it looks like it's going to give me a little bit of trouble here. A good thing we saved it there, right? looks like it did have a crash on me there. Let's go back into the Visual Designer. Good thing is, I saved it, so it's all right there. Let's go ahead and just try to run it. And this is the great part of running this thing. What you're going to see this thing do is you're going to see your process vary here. You're going to see it go up to 15 units, down to 5 units, up to 15 units, down to 5 units. You do see a certain amount of statistics. It's not a normal, plot that we're getting here. There is a triangular distribution. There's a little bit of randomness to this because I did build in the process a tree of 2, 3, 4 model. But what you also see here is you see your current whip level, your average whip level, and you'll see the current whip cost. So right now it's ranging, between a couple $100 their work in process all the way down to maybe $70. But you see this nice plot showing me going from 5 up to 15, down to 5 up to 15. So you see your inventory control working. And you can definitely see how someone in upper management might prefer to look at this model versus going in and looking at this model. Same model, but a little bit different look is all it is. You can see my current whip here. So when I actually run it from here, it's running the arena model. My current whip here right now is 5. You can see my current whip here is 5. If I go back in here and I run it for a little bit and pause it, now I'm at 14, and now you'll see me at 14 here. So they are running in cahoots with each other, but I'm looking at the data that's critical to me. And if I had a bunch of dashboards up here for my important pieces of the data, I could pause it and I could go compare those 3 dashboards or whatever I have. Again, you could put as many containers on one dashboard as you like, but you can also have multiple dashboards as you need. So again, this is EJ Daigle, Dean of Manufacturing at Dunwoody College, and I hope this helped you out with Arena's visual designer.